Hi, it's Steph, and it is a mild winter day here in New England. So I decided that I would come outside and clean up and fertilize my hellebore. And I also got a couple of new hellebore that I'll share with you. About a week ago, I walked into my Home Depot and I found that they had these beautiful hellebore, and I was so surprised because I've actually never seen hellebore being sold at a box store. Typically, it's only something that you find at a local nursery, and they cost a lot more. I've seen hellebore at local nurseries cost about $30, and these were a great price at just $16.98. So I grabbed two of them. Now, it doesn't tell me the variety, it just says it's Hellebores Gold Collection, but based on the bloom, it looks like it could be Pink Frost. But they're really beautiful and I was excited to have them. Now, because these were grown in a greenhouse, and I know that they were grown in a greenhouse because they're in full bloom, and typically they don't bloom until a little bit later. So for that reason, I know that these need to be acclimated. You can't just bring them home from the store and plant them out in the garden. You need to go through a process of hardening them off before they will be able to thrive outside in your garden. So I placed them here in my garage. Now my garage is unheated, but it is attached to my home, so it stays at about 50 degrees. And I know that because I have this temperature gauge in this box where I overwinter my dahlias. Now dahlias like to be overwintered at 45 to 55 degrees, so I keep this here so I'm able to monitor the temperature. And currently my garage is about 54 degrees. So I brought the hellebore home and I placed them here in my garage. You want to make sure you keep them watered. They'll tell you they need water because they'll start wilting. And the next step, after spending about a week in the garage, is I'm going to put them out in my shed. And my shed is also unheated, and I'm going to let them sit there for about a week, week and a half, before I bring them outside to a sheltered location in the yard so that they can start getting used to the temperatures. And maybe a week after that, I will go ahead and find a spot in the garden for them. Here in the back of my garden, I have this woodland bed, which is where I keep most of my hellebore. Because it's a shady area with all of the tree cover that we have here, they tend to do really well. Hellebore are more of a woodland perennial, and they like shaded areas, or areas with only a little bit of sun, dappled sun, is where they perform best. Usually around February, I like to clean up all of the foliage, get all of these leaves that have fallen from the trees away from the plants, and give them a little bit of fertilizer. Now hellebore have really beautiful, large, broadleaf green foliage that in my zone 6 stay pretty evergreen. They look like this through most of the whole year, really, and even in the winter they don't lose their leaves, but they do start looking pretty tattered, and some of the foliage starts looking old and burnt with some holes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through, I'm going to blow out all of these dry leaves that have fallen from the trees above, and I'm going to clean up any foliage that needs cleaning up and just give this area a good cleaning so that all of these blooms are ready to shine when the time comes. I'm going to go through and I'm going to clean up any foliage that looks like it's browned or that could potentially be diseased. I'm going to get rid of all of that foliage, and I'm going to expose just the new foliage on the plant. These here look worse than the others, so I'm going to clean these up pretty well. To clean up the foliage, I just follow the stem all the way back and then just cut it right at the base. As I'm cleaning up the foliage, I'm noticing so many buds. Look at that. These are going to be beautiful when they bloom in a couple of months. I finished cleaning off all of the foliage that I wanted to get rid of, and they look so much better. You can actually see all of the buds for the blooms that are going to come in a couple of months. So it's really exciting to see how many buds are on these plants. But what I like to do is take off most of the foliage. I take off anything that looks damaged or has holes in it, and that just looks tattered. And I still leave a few leaves on the plant. I do think that leaving a couple of leaves on the plant is good because it'll receive energy from the sun and help feed the plant. I just don't like to leave too many leaves on the plant or too much foliage, because I also think that the plant needs to focus its energy on the blooms and not so much on keeping that old foliage alive. The last step is for me to fertilize them. So I'm going to use some of this Espoma Organic Plant Tone, and it's what I like to use on the Hellebore, but you can use Flower Tone or any well-balanced fertilizer that you have. If you're interested in picking up some Plant Tone, I did link some in my Amazon store, and you can find that in the description below the video. But I'm going to go ahead and just sprinkle some around the plant, scratch them into the surface, and they'll be good to go. This grouping of Hellebore, the Ivory Prince, I've had in my garden since about 2018. I have 6 plants here, and they've continually gotten bigger and more blooms each year. They're really beautiful, and they have such large foliage. The leaves actually remind me quite a lot of magnolia foliage, the way that they're shiny and thick and really large, but they create a really great ground cover in this area once all of the foliage fills out. And also, the blooms last a really long time. They start blooming in April, and I have blooms well into June sometimes. They just last a really long time for some reason. Really beautiful. And then these 4 here, I have 4, but they're quite a bit smaller. I only added these a couple of years ago, so they're maybe going on their 3rd season, and they do take some time to establish. Part of the reason that they're quite expensive is because they are really difficult, if not impossible, to grow from seed, and so they take quite a while to mature and to start putting on blooms. But the 4 that I have planted here are part of the Wedding Party series, and I'll show you what they are. They're really pretty. This one here is called Tropical Sunset Honeymoon Series Lenten Rose. So Lenten Rose is another name for a Hellebore, and it's this really pretty yellow with some red or maroon veining, and I actually have one that's in bloom. This one here is called Confetti Cake, and it's a really beautiful double white with some speckling of that burgundy color, like a magenta. Really pretty also. This one is not blooming yet, but it has lots of buds. This one in the front here is also starting to put on lots of buds. There's quite a few here. And it is called Rome in Red. It's a really beautiful burgundy single petal variety. And this one here is not looking great. It's the smallest of the 4 new ones that I planted, but it's also part of the Wedding Party series. And this one is going to be gorgeous when it finally blooms. It's called True Love, and it's a double maroon with a little bit of pink. Hellebore are a beautiful perennial for a shady or woodland garden. They're generally hardy in zones 5 through 9 and not bothered by deer, which is great because I deal with lots of deer in my garden. So if you're looking for a beautiful perennial for a shady area to get that beautiful early spring color, I highly suggest the Hellebore. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, please hit the thumbs up button. And please consider subscribing so you don't miss any of my future videos. And we'll see you soon.